Hi guys, today we will assemble the Tevo FLASH 50% built version. This assembly manual will explain how to assemble not only the standard version but also the full upgraded one. But first, we need to gather the following tools. Tube wrench metric size 7, adjustable wrench, a cutter, a caliper, a square tool, an X-Acto knife, some masking tape, grease, a pencil sharpener, and a couple of cans of your favorite beverage. Okay, let's begin. Open the box and carefully remove all the parts. This is the 50% built version with all the upgrades included, so if your version does not include some of the upgrades, you will not get some of the parts you see here. Inside, you will find a manual, a spatula, and some tools, the PTFE tube and a USB cable, couplings and pulleys, a couple of belts, the top plates with bearings, this little square of foam, save it for later. The left Z carriage and some screws in it. The right Z carriage. A couple of 20 by 20 profiles, and a couple of 40 by 20 profiles, and inside each of the 40 by 20 profiles you can find the lead screws. Under the heat bed, you find the power cable. The Titan extruder and stepper motor. More screws. The Z motors. And the X carriage complete with the hot end assembly. And finally, let's take the bottom half of the printer out. And now that we have all the parts out of the box, let's start the assembly. Use a flat surface to work on. Get the 40 by 20 metal profiles and the 20 by 20 and 330 mm long metal profile. Lay them on the flat surface. The flat surface will guarantee that both 40 by 20 profiles will be assembled on the same plane. Get the frame screws from bag A01 and tighten the frame. Make sure the frame is square and that the vertical profiles are 250 mm apart from each other at the top and at the bottom. Get both Z carriages and slide them on the vertical profiles. Use masking tape to temporarily secure the carriages to prevent them from sliding down. Install the top frame assembly to the bottom assembly. You can use some of the foam pieces to raise the printer. Tighten the 4 screws. Remeasure the distance between the vertical profiles at the top and at the bottom. If the distances don't match, loosen the top screws and adjust. Now, remove the masking tape and inspect the wheels. All 3 wheels must be rolling as you move the carriage up and down, and the carriage itself cannot have any play. Get a small wrench from the tool bag and adjust the eccentric nuts. You have 2 eccentric nuts on each adjustable wheel. Adjust both eccentric nuts so that the wheel surface is parallel with the profile. Before installing anything else, inspect your hot end. If you see the nozzle tighten against the heat block, it means it's not correctly assembled and you need to fix it. Start by removing the top cover. Also unscrew the top 4 screws that secure the heatsink. Carefully lift the cover. With the adjustable wrench, carefully hold the heat block while unscrewing the nozzle. You don't need to remove the nozzle, just unscrew it a little bit. Turn the heatsink 360 degrees clockwise and then screw the nozzle back in. If the nozzle is still reaching the heat block, then turn the heatsink one more time. If not, tighten the nozzle and install everything back. You must tighten the nozzle again with temperature before your first print, so we need to come back to this later on. When working with the hot end, always make sure that there is no heating parts touching any plastic cover or fans. Get the 20 by 20 and 345 mm long metal profile. Slide in the X carriage. Check the 3 wheels and adjust the eccentric nut until all 3 wheels turn smooth on the profile. Use the M5 by 15 screws and spring washers from bag A03 and screw these first, but don't tighten these yet. Get the screws and nuts from the right side and screw them. Also, don't tighten these just yet. Leave the horizontal profile secure but loose. Install the Z motors. If you have the single Z motor version, you must install the motor on the left side next to the X-axis motor and extruder. Turn the motor shaft and use the flat side to screw one of the set screws. Tighten both set screws. Now install the lead screws. Tighten both top set screws. If you have the dual Z option, install the idlers at the top. Check if the lead screws are parallel with the vertical beam. Check at the back side and adjust by moving the stepper motor sideways. Also check from the side and adjust by adding shims between the stepper motor and the vertical profile. Place the belt, but leave it loose. Remove the bearing from the top red plate and install the red plate. Make sure that the plate is flat on a metal profile. If the frame screws prevent the plate from being flat on the profile, you can remove them and grind the top a bit, or add some shims like I did. Align the red plate so that the lead screw is at the center of the hole. Move the Z up by rotating the couplings. Measure the distance from the lead screw to the profile at the top and at the bottom. If you need to, add some precision shims according to how much you need to adjust. Check on both lead screws. Next, rotate the lead screws and check how it behaves from the top side. You must see it spin without any lateral movement or wobbling. If you see the lead screw moving, check the lead screw and stepper motor alignment. The worst case is the lead screw being bent. Grab a couple of cans and place them on the frame. Make sure the horizontal profile screws are not tightened. Lower the Z by rotating the coupling. If you have the dual Z, rotate both couplings. Lower it until one of the sides touches the can first. Now rotate the other side only until the other side also touches the can. Now that you have the horizontal profile leveled, you can tighten the 4 screws. For the dual Z setup, you also need to synchronize the Z motors, so before removing the cans, install the belt on the idlers. Now you can install the bearings on the top side. Now let's install the belt on the X-axis. Pass the belt under the horizontal profile and over the wheel. Loop it around the bearing and secure the belt on the side of the X carriage using a couple of zip ties. Keep the tip of the belt short so that it does not reach the bearing. Make sure that the X motor is not tightened and position it on the inside. Secure the other end of the belt to the X carriage. Stretch it as much as you can. Cut the remaining of the belt. If you need to give extra tension to the belt, pull the X motor outwards and tighten it. Also check the Y-axis belt. If you find it loose, stretch it by adjusting the front idler. For the guys that have the manual leveling version, install the Z end stop using the screw and T-nut. Load the springs of the bed first. Install the sensor, but you need to adjust the final position later on. Install the extruder motor and the extruder. Make an overall check, especially all the T-nuts. Fix them if they are incorrectly assembled. Connect both Z motors. Connect the extruder motor and the X motor. Install the X and stop sensor. Check your PTFE tube before installing it. I recommend to make a new flat and clean cut. Because the heat break is not an all-through model, the PTFE tube will not go all the way through. Instead, it will only enter just a little bit inside the heat break. Use a pencil sharpener and sharpen the tube a little bit. This will help to insert the tube into the heat break. Push the PTFE tube in. When it reaches the heat break, rotate it while pushing in. Sometimes the tube hits the side of the heat break instead of going in. You will notice if the tube goes in a bit more. Install the other end of the tube to the extruder. Grab the cables and using zip ties, secure them together with the PTFE tube. Don't over-tighten the zip ties. Next to the extruder, you have a hole to secure the cables. Connect the hot end cable. And the BL Touch sensor cable if you have it. And finally, the power cable. Check the bed carriage for any play. You can adjust it by turning the two eccentric nuts under the bed. Get some lithium grease and apply some on the lead screws. Move the Z up and down to spread the grease. Remove any excess of grease. Before turning on the printer, make sure that you have the correct voltage version for your country. Now you can turn the printer on. Check all end stops and see if they are working correctly by moving each axis by hand. Remember the hot end? If you remove the nozzle a few steps back, you will need to tighten it with temperature, so carefully remove the cover once again. Heat up the nozzle up to 150 degrees C. Carefully tighten the nozzle when it reaches the temperature. Wait until it cools down and assemble the cover. Once again, make sure that no heating element touches any plastic piece. Move the Z down manually so that the nozzle almost touches the bed. Adjust the Z end stop so that you see the red LED light up. Next, do a quick level on all 4 corners with a 0.1 mm piece of paper. Then, run the home sequence on each axis. If you have the BL Touch sensor, the Home Z will not run. Instead, run the Auto Home sequence. And then, when finished, run the bed leveling sequence inside the Prepare menu. The printer will map the heat bed by probing 9 times. If you have the manual leveling version, recheck the leveling after the home sequence. Last but not least, insert the filament. And all done! The assembly is now complete. I recommend you to run a few calibrations first, such as checking your steps per millimeter, check your print area, etc. Check the video description for the links where I explain these in detail. And that's it, you guys. Hope you liked the video. Feel free to ask any question. If you enjoyed this video, hit like. Don't forget to follow me here on YouTube and Facebook for more cool 3D printing stuff. If you like my work and wish to help, you can with Patreon or PayPal. We will see you guys next time. Bye!